of the institute. Now some background. He holds an MSc in Financial Risk Management from the London Metropolitan University, UK, postgraduate diploma in Business Administration, University of Manchester, UK, BSc Business Administration, First Class Honours, University of Ghana. Mr. Sapon is also affiliated with CITG, ICANN, and Garia. He holds a certificate in investment and securities from the Ghana Stock Exchange. He serves on the boards of KPMG West Africa Holdings. He's a board member, Mary Mother of Good Counsel Church Education Fund, where he's a chairman, Saint Teresa Seminary Endowment Fund, trustee, University of Ghana Business School Advisory Board member, University of Ghana Business School Alumni Association ambassador. Mr. Sapon is passionate about advancing the accountancy profession through digital transformation, member welfare, and youth career development via internship opportunities. He is committed to working collaboratively to strengthen and to modernize the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana. His current role is senior partner at KPMG. Sir, you ready for us? We are ready for you. With a loud round of applause, let's welcome Mr. Anthony Kwesi Sapon.
Let me recognize all the dignitaries who are actually present. I don't have the name, so let me recognize all of you together. Good morning to you, everyone. So let me also add that I left KPMG January this year, so I'm currently the Acting Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority. So the profiles that you heard were my 29 years at KPMG. Yes. It's also gratifying to be here. I always love to be among the youth because it makes you feel young all the time. Particularly when you are in a university setting, it also challenges you to ensure that you are deploying your brains very well, because we know you are among sharp young men and women, and therefore if you want to stay relevant, then you do. So I thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this conference, and as I'm told, is a maiden conference. So congratulations to the university authorities and all the students who have helped to put it together. It's a laudable program, and I will urge you to continue and build on it from this year. So the topic that has been given to me is tax strategy and compliance in a digital economy, balancing innovation and revenue. And when I was given this topic, I asked myself, were you going to mark me? How do I score 80 or 70%, or how do I do it? Or is this like a research assignment? But as I'm coming from the practical world, I said, let me put down what will make it practical for you, because you are in a learning environment. So it's always good to balance it with what we are seeing in practice. So at the end of the day, it will make meaningful, it will be meaningful and sensible to you and for all of us. So let me begin by saying, to create some context and picture for us. So at the beginning of this year, we heard about the pronouncements from the US, the president of the US, cutting aid to developing countries. And you know, Ghana, we depended a lot on the US aid for a number of social interventions. So once that aid is cut, what it meant was that Programs that were supporting our families, ourselves here in Ghana and other developing countries were no longer there. What it then means is that we must find the money and do the things that are important to us. Again, today, UK, which has also been a long partner in supporting Ghana and other developing countries, they were not as sharp as the US and said that over the coming years, they will be reducing the amount of support that they give to countries. So again, it's a call to action and it's a call to challenges, that the things that are important to us, but for many years we have depended upon other countries, we must take it up in our own strides and make sure we are generating the revenue locally so that we can continue to do them. So within this context, and within the context of the aspirations that we have as a nation, resetting agenda as the vision set by the president. What it means for us from tax administration is that mobilizing tax revenue is a key project or is a key activity that we must take seriously. If we don't, what it means is that tax revenue that goes to development, to build infrastructure, education, road, hospitals, and all other infrastructure that supports dignified human existence, that support businesses, will be lacking. And when that is lacking, it means that you and I, at the individual level or at the business level, our aspirations can be delayed or very much challenged. And therefore, revenue mobilization, or for that matter, domestic revenue mobilization, is central to national development. And taxation is one of the core beings to realizing that activity. So that's why I find it an honor to join you today at this important conference with the theme, The Future of Business, Innovation, Responsibility, and Social Impact. I'm also especially pleased to contribute to the topic, as I've already said, tax strategy and compliance in a digital economy, balancing innovation and revenue. So this team, the main team and the sub-team, are so timely. They are very relevant, and they speak to the very foundations or things that we must grapple with. So let's turn a bit into what is the situation of Africa and Ghana. The African digital economy is emerging as a central driver of growth, innovation, and inclusion on the continent. It is projected to contribute about 180 billion to Africa's GDP by 2025. So we are not far away from that, 10 years from here, which is equivalent to about 5.2% of total GDP, with a potential to rise to 712 billion, which is constitute about 8.5% of GDP by 2050. These are estimates from IFC 2020. And this is 5 years ago, so you can imagine these numbers are growing. With over 640 million internet users as at 2025, that is statistical, that's very current data, 2025. Africa already accounts for a significant share of the global online population. Mobile technology is leading this transformation, so I'm happy to see my friend from MTN here. And I told him that since he's here, he must give a big donation to the university. So mobile technology is leading the transformation, particularly mobile money, and we are very much aware of it in Ghana, which processed over 833 billion in transactions across sub-Saharan Africa. Again, this is 2023 data, so it could be more by GSMA. These trends open new avenues for governments to design digital tax strategies that capture tax revenue from e-commerce, fintech, and cross-border services while ensuring fair and inclusive participation in global digital economy. So technology is one side. Now let's look at the people who use it. So Africa's youthful population is a core asset for this transformation and growth, and all of us gathered here are part of that. So nearly 60% of Africans are under 25 years old. That's according to the African Union, representing the largest youth cohort in the world. So we must be proud that the future of the world sits with us in Africa, and we are part of that future. And this digitally savvy demographic population, you, as you are aware, you definitely, I call people that you were born with mobile phones in your hands. So some of us, we are digital migrant. We came and learned it. But for majority of you, when you were born, you came with your mobile phones and with your apps. So it tells us that you already came into the world with technology in your hands. Again, most of Africa youth are poised for entrepreneurship. And most of you are challenging yourself to run your own businesses. So if you look at the data from SME, we say in Africa, SME dominates the continent's economy, accounting for over 80% of businesses and employment, and contributing to about 50% of GDP, according to AFDB 2022. So together, these two factors create vast opportunities for tax administrators like myself to integrate SMEs into the formal tax system through digital platforms and leveraging the youth-driven innovation that can both widen the tax base and improve compliance. By fostering digital inclusion and simplifying tax regimes for SMEs, African governments can unlock stable revenue streams while encouraging entrepreneurship and job creation. And then you will see that these are also then relevant within the government vision of the 24-hour economy, or popularly known 24H+. The core tenets of that program is industrialization, wealth creation, and job creation. And therefore, using technology and harnessing the power of the youth and bringing out tax strategies that works for the young children, we can all together achieve some of these dreams. So these statistics in Africa are not so different from what we see in Ghana. So Ghana exemplifies these continental opportunities through its fast-growing digital economy. The country's ICT sector contributes enormously, close to about 4%, if not more, to our GDP basket. As of January 2025, we understand Ghana had about 24.3 million internet users, potentially about 70% penetration. My friend from MTN, I hope that is correct. And about over 38 million mobile phone connectivities across the entire landscape of Ghana. Mobile money, as we know, has revolutionized the financial transaction landscape in Ghana, and reaching over 1.9 trillion in 23 transactions, and about 82% increase from year to year, recording close to about 650 billion in just the first 2 months of 2025. This is Chamber of Telecoms 2025. So again, you see that within the Ghana context, the growing businesses, growing entrepreneurship, and the use of digital tools is not so different from the picture that we see in Africa. Again, for Ghana demographics and SME landscape, this again reinforces that we know and we understand that 60% of Ghanaians are under the age of 25, according to USAID 2024 statistics. And SME accounts for over 80% of businesses and contribute to about 30%. So 1/3 of our GDP is again from the SME sector. However, informality remains a challenge, as many SMEs operate outside the tax net. And that also means that we lose the opportunity to harness tax revenue for national development. By leveraging digital payment systems, expanding e-commerce taxation, and introducing simplified digital tax regimes, Ghana can bring more SMEs and youthful or the young entrepreneurs into our formal taxation net. Moreover, with nearly 99% of 4G network coverage, but a 62% usage gap, closing this digital divide will not only enhance inclusion, but also expand the number of taxable economic actors. A well-designed digital tax strategy in Ghana, therefore, would broaden the tax base and generate a sustainable revenue to finance infrastructure, education, social protection for the youthful population now and into the future. Let me now demonstrate a simple picture to you as we are in academic youthful environment. Let's take, for example, a young Ghanaian entrepreneur that builds an online clothing store on Instagram. And we know that most of you doing your businesses, Instagram, you do your adverts there. The person will not have a shop in Makola or a signboard in East Legon. And it potentially may not even have employees. Yet in 1 month, this young entrepreneur can sell to customers across Accra, from Accra to London, from Accra to Nairobi, from Accra to New York. Payments come through mobile phone, PayPal, and cards that are linked to the bank network globally. This is just the new phase of business, moving from brick and mortar to the digital market. The question for us at Ghana Revenue Authority is clear. How do we design tax systems that are fair, efficient, and supportive of such innovative businesses, while also safeguarding the revenue that we need to raise for national development? So you see that the digital economy is not just about online shopping. It's about platforms, it's about cloud services, it's about streaming, it's about gig work, it's about fintech, it's about crypto assets and artificial intelligence. I was amazed a few years ago when some young people who are dealing in the cryptocurrency area approached me and said, "We are making a lot of money. We don't want you to wake up one day and come and close us like they did to Piram. Just come and tax us so that we know that we are in the net." So these are areas that are growing, and they create opportunities for employment, and they create opportunities of revenue and taxation. But they are in the digital environment, and we must have strategies that we can support them at the same time, allow them to contribute their quota for national development. And therefore, the digital economy is borderless, is fast-moving, and heavily data-driven. For Ghana, this digital shift is both opportunity and a challenge. An opportunity because technology can broaden our tax base, bring informal businesses into the formal economy, and enable us to deliver smarter taxpayer services. But at the same time, it's a challenge because traditional tax rules designed for brick and mortar factories and fiscal offices cannot fully capture the value created from data and intangible assets. And therefore, what should we see as a challenge? So government everywhere face this tension between mobilizing revenue and at the same time creating the environment that encourage innovation. So for Ghana, this challenge is urgent. Revenue is a lifeblood of our economy. It funds education, healthcare, and infrastructure and social programs. Yet businesses need space to grow, create jobs, and compete globally. The key challenges then include some of the following. VAT on digital services. How do we ensure fairness when a Ghanaian streams a movie or download software from abroad? Corporate tax. Where is the value created? When companies generate millions from Ghanaian consumers, but they have no fiscal presence in the jurisdiction of Ghana. SMEs and informality. Many digital startups and small businesses believe that they are operating online. That means that they are invisible, they are not in the tax net. How do we bring them to the tax net while at the same time they continue to enjoy the very infrastructure that will be built by the revenue mobilization that we mobilize in Ghana? So globally, we are seeing these important shifts. The OECD and the G20 inclusive framework has introduced the global minimum corporate tax. Several African countries, including Kenya and Nigeria, have adopted digital tax services. Ghana is actively monitoring this development to shape the policies that should also suit our context, and which also allow us to fashion the relevant strategies that are practical and workable in our environment. So having given all this background, I would like to move to what should be our strategy in Ghana, particularly from Ghana Revenue's point of view, to balance innovation, to support job creation, to support wealth creation, while at the same time mobilizing tax revenue for national development. So at the Ghana Revenue Authority, we recognize that the digital economy cannot be taxed with analog tools. That is why our strategy is anchored on smart policies. We are also looking at how we should formalize the SMEs and to make them part and parcel of the digital economy, while at the same time contributing to revenue mobilization. So again, when you look at the young person operating, they will not walk to GRA office to pay their tax. They want the convenience. If they have to pay tax, they want to do it on their phones. They will not live where they are operating. So if they want to pay tax, the taxman must move to where they are. And therefore, the processes that we put in place to support our strategy must have the element of simplicity, efficiency, and effectiveness, and above all, convenience to the taxpayer today and also the taxpayer of tomorrow. So what are some of the strategies that we are adopting? We call it smart policies. So the first one is digital tax administration. We cannot continue to work on analog or manual forms. So at GRA, we are transforming the main tax administration system into a digital taxpayer administration system. We are already on that journey by giving the fast pace of development. We are at the moment implementing a nationwide tax administration system that will ensure that every taxpayer, from their phones, from their desks, from everywhere they are, they can register and have interface with our tax administration system. They'll be able to see their data, they'll be able to pay, they'll be able to generate reports and returns and know their status. That way, it's easier and you are able to facilitate tax administration and conversations with the taxpayer. So this project is ongoing and we expect it to go live from January 2026. Secondly, most of our systems today are standalone systems. They don't talk to each other. So a typical example is if an importer comes through our port and brings in goods which they are going to sell in country, we have one system that captures them. We need to manually go and find this importer once they are inland. So again, what we are doing is integrating our key tax administration system. So currently at the port, our tax administration system is called ICOMS. That will be integrated into the domestic tax system. So let me explain the term. So in Ghana, we have three umbrella taxes. So the first one is import duties. So if you are bringing goods from abroad, then it forms part of taxes on import duties. So the current system we run is called ICOMS, and they exist at all the entry points. And then once you operate in the jurisdiction, it is called domestic tax, and that has two components, income tax and VAT. So these are the three umbrella taxes we operate in Ghana: income taxes, VAT, and import taxes. So the VAT and income taxes are on one system, while the import duties are on one system. We need to integrate these two systems so we are able to have a 360 view of the taxpayer. And that will mean that we are also creating the digital platform that facilitates our engagement with the taxpayer. And then, of course, as we've already mentioned, there are lots of online businesses that are also springing up. The taxpayer of today and the future is a digital taxpayer. How do we ensure that when transactions are taking place, we are able to see it? So at the moment, again, in the last quarter of this 2025, we are piloting a digital system that will interface with all the payment platforms in Ghana. And we are working in conjunction with Bank of Ghana and all the other fintech entities. So as you pay something online, whether in Ghana or outside Ghana, this system will help us to identify the transaction, will assess whether it's taxable, and the tax will be taken at the point of payment, so that the payment is split, a portion goes to the supplier, and the tax component comes to the government. So this is going to revolutionize the way we do online transactions. That will mean that government will not be left out, and the businesses will not be left out. It will also expand into the area of cryptocurrency, as I've already mentioned. It will be able to cover all those areas. It will also cover the areas of gaming, those of us who are interested in all the gaming activities. So at the point of payment, this system will help us to be able to split the transactions so that a fair share of tax revenue will come to government. So this is an area that we know is going to grow, and therefore investing in technology to ensure that we are ready and working with businesses is a key one. But besides that, we also started the journey on innovation, because with technology, you know that once you start something, within a few years, 2-3 years, things are changing very fast and rapidly. And therefore, at GRA, we have set up an innovation team that will continue to look at our processes, that will continue to look at emerging technologies and where we can change. So I'm happy to announce that in 2025, the World Bank, in collaboration with Trust Valley and SECO, which are institutions based in Switzerland, selected GRA for the first time globally, selected GRA to pilot innovation in a public sector institution. So what is, and some of the young people here, I'm sure you would have seen the global advertisement. So what is happening is that GRA will come out with a challenge in an area where we need innovation to improve on tax revenue. And this challenge will be thrown out globally. So this was in this year's program, which is the first time. It was launched about a month ago globally, and I realized a lot of Ghanaians reach out to me wanting more information from me, and I said, this is innovation, everything is online. Where you saw it, go there and see it. Yes, we value relationships, so that we want to know whom you know. So when I speak to the Commissioner General, I'll get more information. But honestly, there was more information online than what I can give. So through this approach, we get applications from various businesses, and we've intentionally kept it at the youthful businesses. So there's an age gap restriction to make sure that it's the youth who are going to ultimately be the beneficiaries who are contributing to the solution. So about 5 of the applicants globally will be selected. They will work on the challenge together with GRA, and at the end of it all, one of them will be selected to partner GRA to implement it. So we believe that this is a key initiative, a maiden one, that will reinforce innovation behaviors in our public sector. and we are beginning with GRA as far as Ghana is concerned and globally. And what is important for us is that we want to succeed, so it's an example for Ghana as a shining star to the rest of the world. We are also introducing AI into our operations. So as you know, artificial intelligence is also one of the key areas that drives efficiency and productivity in business and in businesses. And therefore, for tax administration, one of the areas we are looking at in Ghana is what we call classification and valuation. So when people are bringing goods from outside, one of the key processes that determines how much you pay is classification. So classification will say, is it a vehicle or is it a rice? And then valuation will say, how much value should you place on this type of car or this type of rice? So for all these years, we have used our human resources to do it. We are introducing AI. That AI will, the one that will do the classification and valuation. And that will allow us to compare with what the human beings are doing. What is interesting is that the AI will do it in 10 minutes. At the moment, the human being does it in 1 hour. So speed is going to be an important gain here. Efficiency is going to be an important gain here. Number two, there's a lot of discretion that is exercised in the process. And of course, when you are dealing with human beings, that's a wide laxity. The AI is going to close the level of discretion that is exercised and make sure that it is fair for everyone. Again, in the area of VAT, VAT presents a huge potential for tax collection because a consumption tax. As we buy water, as we buy food, as we buy drinks, the VAT is placed. So you see that as population increases, the potential to increase VAT is there because we will consume more. But if you don't put the systems in place to make sure that we are consuming more, we are taxing at the right point, then we will consume more, but taxes will not come through. Thankfully, in our laws, we have what we call a law passed in 2018, which is Physical and Electronic Devices Act, which means that if you go to any retail shop, you're supposed to have a point of sale, but we've not been able to do it across board. 2026, as part of the VAT reforms, we'll be introducing the Physical and Electronic Devices so that wherever you go, when you pay, the taxes can be properly accounted for, government will get its share, and the businesses will do that. So my request for all of us here is that when you go and buy items today, and they give you any receipt, say, for the love of Ghana, give me a VAT receipt. Give me a VAT receipt. If it's an automated system in VAT, just check whether that shop is running a VAT digital receipt. If they don't have an automated system and they are giving a manual receipt, ask them, give me a VAT receipt. That will be your contribution to this. But we want to automate that from next year. So you don't need to ask for a VAT receipt. All you need is to ensure that the receipt they are giving you is a digital VAT one. If you're able to generate revenue from VAT, from all of us ensuring that we demand our VAT receipts, that will mean that more money will be available to government and more infrastructure can be built. Another area that, again, we want to bring innovation is we've talked about taxing the informal sector many years in this country, but it's always been a challenge. How do we do it? So again, in the last quarter of this year, 2026, we are introducing what we call modified taxation. That means that we want to make taxation simple for small businesses and for businesses that are not able to keep very detailed and accurate accounting. So for instance, if your turnover is around 200,000 today, then the law says that the tax you should pay is 3%. So if you earn 200,000 and below, all the tax you should pay in this country is 3%. And that works out to what? 6,000. So for all small businesses, if you are below or up to 200,000, all the taxes you pay is 6,000. This is going to be simple. This is going to be easy. And then we'll ask you, this 6,000, do you want to pay it monthly, quarterly, or one-off? So for all of you who are running online businesses, this is a time to run to the taxman, not to run away. Whatever you are earning, apply 3%, flat rate, pay that, and nobody worries you. But it's a huge potential. We estimate that maybe over 7 million and plus businesses are in this category. If we are able to even harness just 1/3 of it, which is about 2 million, that translates to 1 billion USD annually, or over 12 billion Ghana cedis. If we estimate that 2 billion, all that they are paying is 5,000 annually. So I speak to people who have businesses online, and particularly today when you have events, they come and set up the nice setup and they are collecting 20,000. They may do, let's say, 4 times in a year, and I ask them, so you are collecting almost 80,000 a month. If I charge you 5,000 for the whole year, what's your take? Then they'll say, oh, we will gladly pay. But it looks small, but when you put it in volumes, it's a huge one. So let me encourage all of you and tell your friends, this is coming and coming soon. So embrace, run, and let's work together as tax administration. Don't run to us. Once you pay this, your whole tax is covered. We also want to ensure that we educate the Ghanaian taxpayer. So again, we will be launching before the end of the year what we call a sustained tax education program, where we educate various taxpayers of their rights and their obligations, particularly how to make taxation easier on them. So these and many more initiatives we believe will open the doors to educate Ghanaian taxpayers. We'll use technology to be able to identify ourselves and allow the taxpayer to be able to easily pay at their own convenience. Again, data, I'm moving on from innovation to data and insight. Data and insight today is a gold mine. So from tax administration perspective, we are investing in data and insight, because when we go to the taxpayer with data and insight, it gives us the opportunity to have a good conversation. So today we have what we call automatic exchange of information. So we have agreements with a number of countries. So Ghanaians who have, or residents or citizens in Ghana who have businesses and assets in jurisdictions outside Ghana, we receive the information on them. How much assets, how many assets you have in those countries. So we are able to now have a conversation with them and say, have you paid taxes in those countries? If yes, if you have kept those assets in Ghana, will you have paid a higher tax or lower tax? If you would have paid a higher tax, then we ask them to pay the differential here for not keeping the assets here. If they have paid a lower tax, then that is the case. So today that program is started about just 2 years ago. We are generating 1 billion Ghana cedis from it, but it has potential to explode. And again, we are using technology to be able to do that. There are many professionals who work in this country, and all the taxes they pay is the 5 or 7.5% withholding tax. We are moving to aggregate all these professionals to ensure that at a minimum, we are able to find the income they make and use technology to properly tax them. Another interesting area that we are using data and insight is our entry points at the airport. So today at the airport, we have introduced what we call the advanced passenger information. So every passenger who is traveling out or coming into Ghana, 2 hours before the flights take off, we have the information. So if you went with 2 bags and you are coming with 10 bags and you say they are all personal properties, by the time you get to the airport, we know. So that we know that you went with 2 bags. Then we'll look at how come the 2 bags have become 10 bags. Are they all personal properties? Which the law allow, then you don't pay tax. But if they are not, then you pay taxes on the 10 bags that you are bringing home. So again, this is using technology and data. So today when you are stopped at the airport, it's not random. It's because we know. We know what you went and we know what you brought in. Another area is that we've seen many Ghanaians take huge amounts of funds out of the country when they are traveling. So again, recently you will notice that BOG announced that $10,000, you don't have to tell anybody you are carrying 10,000 up to 10,000. Between 10,000 and 50, you have to say I'm carrying more than 10,000, but not up to 50. Anything above 50, you need to have documentation to show your source and why you are carrying over $50,000 outside the country. In a month's time, we are introducing a digital tool. So people have told me, how will you know? I said, well, it's technology. In a month's time, technology will be all the entry points. So if you pass through, that technology will tell us you are carrying currency. So that if you think that you won't declare, the technology will tell us you are carrying money. So technology, data, and insight, again, will be the way to go. So ladies and gentlemen, let me say that taxation is not just going to be about collecting money. It's also going to ensure that we rely on appropriate technology to create efficiency, simplicity, and convenience for the taxpayer. We rely on appropriate technology to give us insights and data so we can accurately engage with the taxpayer and ensure that, and also becomes a process that protects a fair system for all of us. In that respect, for businesses that are paying taxes legally and properly, I think this is a demonstration of responsibility and fairness. And for those who are always running away from the tax net, again, it's responsibility and fairness to bring them onto the tax net. And in a digital economy, reputation is global. Consumers increasingly prefer companies that are not only innovative, but are also responsible. And therefore, as businesses pay their taxes, the tendency is for them to increase their consumer base. So when businesses pay fair share of taxes, they help mobilize revenue, build our infrastructure, digital systems, and educated forces that depend upon it will also increase. So at GRE, we therefore see taxpayers not as advisories, but as partners and customers in nation building. So quickly, I'll be bringing to an end, but let me quickly say a few things. So at GRE, what's our vision in terms of making Ghana's tax system updated to meet today's needs and to the future? We want to emphasize on the point of fairness. Everyone should contribute according to their capacity. Efficient. Compliance must be simple, digital, and seamless. It must be supportive of growth, especially for young businesses and startups, so that they can be supported to grow and become giants into the future. And finally, it should contribute to social development through building of infrastructure. Therefore, we are prioritizing the development of our people and embedding a culture of efficiency, productivity, innovation, and professionalism in us as tax administrators. We cannot demand responsibility and fairness from the taxpayer while we ourselves are not doing that. So people and culture internally is one of our own priorities to do so. We are also instituting relevant legal framework that can support digital transformation and ensure transparency, public accountability, and trust. So to do all of this requires partnership, which means to government, we must continue to invest in digital infrastructure and necessary legislations that ensure that businesses can operate. For business leaders and for young entrepreneurs, we say embrace compliance, be voluntary in your tax compliance as a pillar of your corporate social responsibility. And to society at large and to academia, hold us accountable and contribute to shaping policy that works for Ghana in terms of tax administration and overall policy. In conclusion, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the future of businesses will be digital, innovative, and borderless, but it must also be responsible and fair. At the Ghana Revenue Authority, we are committed to building a tax system that balances innovation and revenue supports growth of the digital economy, benefits all Ghanaians. Together, we should rally behind the President in his vision of resetting the nation and building the economy and the nation we want. Let us build this future together, where innovation drives opportunity, responsibility builds trust, and revenue fuels national development. Thank you very much, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much. That's a good one. Please put it together again. Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony Kwesi Sapong. So, for clarification, everything we read about Mr. Sapong was correct up to some point. We didn't scratch it. Those credentials and experience belong to him. But of course, the additional point to be made is that he is currently the acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Please put your hands together for him. I believe that was a lot of food for thought. Forgive me when I move away. I'm not used to being in one station. So it makes it a little more interactive. But that's a lot of food for thought. And as he spoke, I was thinking about the GRA. Yesterday, I got a call from the GRA. Yesterday. I can show it to you. Whilst I was waiting in the car park to pick up my children from school, I get a call. A young lady, clearly. That voice, it doesn't sound like my mother's voice. Is this, and then she asks a question. I say, yes, it is. Do you work at XYZ? I said, I used to work there. Oh, I'm come to ask you for something to pay. So why are you saying you used to work there? I said, because that entity has been dissolved. It's been dissolved, and I've actually written to the GRA, showed them evidence from the office of the registrar of companies, all of that, attached it. It doesn't exist anymore. He said, oh, but I'm calling you to collect our money. Oh. I'm calling you. You have to come and pay. So I said, okay, I hear you. Is that good for you? Can you? I said, okay, but do you sound right in your own ears? You sound very unprofessional. I don't know who asked you to call me. But if you have to pay, you have to bring them. So first port of call, first observation, and it wasn't the first time. So I'm just throwing it at the big boss himself. That it also matters how the communication is done, and I had the occasion of speaking to somebody in that TSC who said they get that complaint a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm not the only person. We have to give credit to the GRA. I mean, if you've been in the system for a long time, once upon a time we had to fill some green forms, sometimes white forms, sometimes pink forms, depending on what you are filling for, and go and line up in some place in a long queue, only to go and say that nail. Or say that it's 100 cedis to pay you or 20. The digital platform really has changed a lot. It has revolutionized a lot. On your phone, wherever you're sitting, wherever I am, I'm just able to. If you miss it by a day, you pay some penalties. That, please don't forget, because that one, don't smile. But it has made a lot of difference in terms of the payment time and things like that. There's a question I'll be asking you when we are having this discussion. I know Professor Cholek and all the gurus are here, but no matter what they say, I disagree with them before they answer it. I don't understand why in issuing a VAT certificate, I charge 100 cedis. We know the VAT rate. But I have to add some NH something, which is not for me. And some other one, which is not for me. And yet another one, which is not for me. 3 of them. And add those 3 to my money. And pay tax and pay VAT to you on the addition of all those. It really doesn't make sense to me. If you charge me VAT on my 100 cedis, I get you. Why is government collecting 0.5 of that, adding it to the money I collected, charging another 0.5, adding it to the money I collected, charging another amount, adding it to my money, before applying your VAT onto an amount that includes your money? I don't know if you get my point. So why are you charging me VAT on your own money? What? No. Let's not do future. We are only alive at the time when we are. So it's an issue for me. For the young ones, I don't know if you get it. I mean, those who have some businesses, I pay you 100 cedis. You have to pay VAT on it, no problem. Or you have to pay NHIL, whatever. Yes, pay. So give me the calculate that amount on it, this and that, VAT on it. Calculate the total tax and let me pay you. But don't add your own money to my money as if that is my money before applying the VAT on it. You are charging me 2 times, in a sense. Your money is not my money. Why should I pay tax on your money? So please, we need to look at that. I think that we need to make some noise about this. You agree, don't you? Thank you. Yeah. So sometimes when you don't complain, yeah, the yeah you enjoy will fire. That's what our account friends say. You see, that payment I've paid over the time, I think we should recoup it. We have to find a way. But to more serious business, we'll move on to our discussion right away before anybody gets bored. What's the time? 10:48. Yeah, quickly, and then we can have our discussion and take a break. It means our break goes forward a bit. But please remember that this is the first ever Boateng Business Conference. Remember it? The Boateng Business Conference. Our main theme is the future of business, creating businesses with conviction, innovation, and responsible practices. And so to throw some more light on what has happened, I will invite up to the podium right now, high table here, Mr. Anthony Kwesi Sapong, Acting Commissioner General of the GRA, who you've just heard. Please take a seat, sir. I would also invite, and you've already heard his profile, so I don't have to go through that again, but I'll invite 2 additional gentlemen whose profiles I will read to you shortly. The next is Mr. Francis Timori. Mr. Francis Timori, can you join us up here? Hey, and then a blast. Okay, so that is my solo chair. Please, thank you very much. And then Mr. Alexander Haviewusi. Hey, okay, yeah, sure. So Mr. Alexander Haviewusi, I will tell you our story one day. Maybe if we take our profiles further back, we'll have a common school on it for us. So who is Mr. Francis Timori? Francis is a tax lawyer and senior consultant with over 18 years experience in taxation, audit, financial and capital markets, and business advisory. He is a transfer pricing expert specializing in transfer pricing documentation and tax risk and cross-border taxation. He has worked for Unilever Ghana PLC as assistant manager in charge of taxation and Guinness Ghana Breweries PLC as a senior tax manager. He has also worked for telecom giant MTN Ghana as the lead tax specialist, overseeing the company's tax and cross-border tax activities. Francis is a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Ghana, which means he's a lawyer here in Ghana, with experience in litigation and project advisory on taxation, commercial, and financial matters. Francis has been involved in various projects including tax due diligence, that is, advising on taxpayer remedies and resolution of disputes with revenue authorities, training, providing general advice on market access, investment strategies, and assessing investment incentives. Francis holds a Master of Laws degree from the University of London in Corporate and Commercial Laws, as well as a Bachelor of Laws degree from the Gimpa Law School. He holds a postgraduate advanced diploma in transfer pricing from Thomas Jefferson School of Law, San Diego, California, USA. He's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana and a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation Ghana. He has a Master of Philosophy degree, we generally call it an MPhil, in finance, as well as a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting, first class honors, all from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST. We simply call it tech in our days. Francis also holds a master's degree in finance from Central University, has an associate degree in legal studies from the Institute of Commercial Management, UK. He's a product of Sunyani Technical University with a higher national diploma in accountancy. He teaches international taxation, oil and gas taxation, and advanced taxation at Moore Tax Academy. Is a regular contributor to tax columns in the Business and Financial Times. Please put it together for Francis Timo. Mr. Javier Uzi has always been a very simple man, I can tell you for a fact. So he's giving us a very brief and simple profile. Alexander Javier Uzi is a tax practitioner with over 25 years of work experience with the Ghana Revenue Authority. It means he goes all the way back to the days when it was IRS. He commenced his professional career in taxation with the SWA VAT service, now the Ghana Revenue Authority. Alexander has been involved in the implementation of a number of key tax policies and has led teams on several tax engagements. His expertise spans various sectors, including public health corporations as well as private sector businesses. Alexander is a chief revenue officer and works in the office of the Commissioner, Domestic Tax Revenue Division. Please put it together for Alex. So I think everyone has their own microphone, which will make life easier for all of us. At some point, we'll take questions from the floor, most definitely. Sometimes I think those questions actually are the more important ones. They are the living questions for you. They are things that, come to bear on the things that we have. But gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And welcome to the table. Our topic is an interesting one, isn't it? It says tax management in Ghana essentially. We're looking at tax management in Ghana essentially. Let me begin with you, Commissioner, for a good reason, because I want a bird's eye view at this time. In terms of tax management, what is the overall observation for you? We heard your speech, we heard the things you're seeing going, we had the changing scenes, what different businesses are doing. It's no more brick and mortar where you are banging on our doors and breaking them down. This time people are sitting behind their computers and they are doing work. How is the management going generally? Are you satisfied? Are you at 50, 60, 90? Where do you stand? That would be great.
when you buy drinks from the shop, you pay something for drinking. So those are VAT. Then import duties. When you bring goods into the country, at the point of entry that you are clearing, you pay the tax on those goods that you are bringing in the country. And those are referred to as import duties. In terms of structure, we run on three divisions. So we have what we call the domestic tax division, which handles the income tax and VAT because they happen in the jurisdiction of land. Then we have the import duties, which is handled by another division called customs. The old people refer to as cess. Apparently they are referred to as customs. So they operate at the borderlands and make sure that as you bring in goods, you pay the duty. But in addition to that, they are also preventing. So they prevent things like unfair trade, smuggling, and other things. So they have a dual responsibility, collecting the revenue and also protecting the revenue leakage. And then the third division we have is what we call support services. So this is administration arm of JRE, making sure that things are run properly from the back office. So within the domestic side, we run on what we call tax service centers. So these are physical offices in various locations across the country. And then on the domestic, on the customs side, because they are paramilitary, they are referred to as sector command. So they also have various posts across the country that they are referred to as the sector command. So in a nutshell, this is how we structure the tax management and administration generally.
Great, thank you very much. I will definitely come back for that clarification you mentioned at some point before we leave this place. But I think that I'm also guided that a lot of the focus I should make sure deals with SMEs for the most part of this discussion, because seems to be the target group that we have here. Francis, let me come to you. I mean, for purposes of dealing with SMEs and talking generally about tax, what are their obligations? How does that work? You have an SME of any kind. We definitely know the GRA is always there. We will definitely have some obligations. Simply put, for these young people thinking of setting up things or who already have things going, what must they pay attention to? What must they do? Is it still 25% though for the companies? I'm not sure. Still 25. Right. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay, so let's clarify this. You're saying that if you're a company, your corporate income tax is 25% on profit, right? Or your taxable profit. Now the technical people are correcting us. So once we figure out what your taxable profit is, 25% of that is corporate income tax. If you are a sole proprietor, which many people begin and do where it's just you, you are saying that it is not fixed. There's a scale. So or bands, as some people call it. So what you pay depends on where you fall in terms of the profit you make. And the maximum is 35%. 600,000 a year.
also decided to do business, but you also do some investment. So if you are investing, the law also requires that you should also pay tax on it. And the general principle is that because you are either employment or you are earning business or you are earning income from business or from investment, put all those together. And if you are an individual, then we subject that one to the graduated law, depending on the type of income you earn. But the law has, in the wisdom of the lawmakers, they are thinking that some income should not be taxed. So we call it exempt income. For example, you are an individual and you earn some small money from your savings from a bank. That one, the law specifically states that that should not be taxed because probably you want to encourage the attitude of investment. So generally, that is the law that applies to us. Now, to your question, the obligation. Yes. Immediately you start to do business, the first obligation is that you need to register with the tax authorities. And that is the first part of tax administration. You need to be identified. And the identification, you go to the tax office, submit your documents, and then you will be registered. That is the starting point. From there, the tax authorities will know you, so that if you have any tax obligation, granted that you are supposed to register for VAT because the items you are selling are supposed to be subject to VAT, so that if you sell to me, you will pay the VAT and the taxes you spoke about. You register for it. If you meet the threshold, again, if they employ some people you are working with, they have to pay taxes. So we use you as the agent to collect the salary tax from those employees. So the registration is the basic threshold. One problem that we have realized.
Before you move on, so that we are clear. So your point is that, and people, so that we pay attention to it, there's some confusion. Talking about the sole proprietors. Sole proprietors also employ people sometimes, right? So that treatment is important. I don't want us to take anything for granted. If you're a company, we know you have staff, you are paying normal. If you're a partnership, you know you are more than one, because you cannot have a one-person partnership. If you're a sole proprietor, you still may have 5 people that work for you. I mean, you can go to somebody's shop, we'll go and bring the oil. All those people work for you, yet you are still registered as a sole proprietor. How do you treat that for purposes of taxation? I want that clarification. Yes. Okay. Yes. Right. Right. Agent. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because if you don't do that, select one of these days will come to you and say you have employed people and you are not paying them.
Sure.
So registration becomes the first obligation. After that, then the GRA will sit down and say what are the various taxes that you are supposed to collect, which you are acting as an agent. Remember that money you are acting as an agent. It's not your money. We are just using it to collect. For example, if you are paying suppliers, the law requires that you take withholding taxes. If you are paying your employees, or maybe you are selling and the transaction is supposed to be subjected to VAT, you charge me 2,000 cedis, add the VAT to it, come to less than 2,500. That 500 on it is not your money. Go and give it to the GRA. So those agency roles or responsibilities also comes under you. At the end of the year, you also have a filing obligation where you submit your documents to GRA and say this is my total sales I made and this is the financial statement or my affairs. Then they will assess if there are any taxes that you are supposed to pay, then you pay. Immediately you register, there could be some quarterly payment that you have to make. So those quarterly obligations too, you have to also satisfy. But as a consultant, you see that most of sole proprietors they register, they just put out a shop and then start doing business. But the basic requirement is that first register with the Ghana Revenue Authority. Try and go to Senate and go and register potentially for people you have employed because you need to pay for their pensions. And then any other regulatory body that you think, sometimes you may have to go to the district assembly to go and pay
Alex, let me come to you, and it's still sort of flowing from there before I give you a substantive question. So we understand that we've done the registration, whatever form of business it is, and all. You mentioned withholding tax, and I can say that when I, for example, issue an invoice and it goes out, a lot of companies will pay me. I notice that it's less withholding tax. What happens to that withholding tax that I have paid? How do I benefit from it? How is it computed against that final returns or filings that I make at the end of the year? So people understand whether they've lost that money or it is to their credit and benefit, and in what way.
So, like you said, it's been said earlier, the Commissioner General, or first of all, the GRA Commissioner General, is responsible for giving effect and then administering the tax laws. Now, this means that there are a number of tax laws that regulate the activities that we engage in. So, for purposes of what you said, we are now going to turn our attention to the Income Tax Act 2015, Act 896. Now, withholdings, for the purposes of what you said, is tackled under Section 116. So basically, what that section says is that if I'm paying for goods and services, what I ought to do is to withhold an element of it, which is dictated by the tax law. So for goods, you're supposed to withhold a percentage of 3. When it's goods and services, it's also specified. If it's works or contracts, it's also specified. Now, what happens is when you withhold that amount, you are supposed to, at the end of the month, prepare a schedule, and then before the 14th of the subsequent month, go to Commissioner General or go to our tax portal, and then make those payments that you held on behalf of the person. So let's say I was paid and it was in respect of goods. What I want to do is to withhold 3% of the fixed part of the goods, which is your money.
Right.
And then when I withhold, so when I withhold the 3%,
Yes.
the next month from the 1st to
14th. Yes.
what I do, I go on the portal with your particulars. I have your name, I have your hotel, I have the category of goods or description of goods,
Yes.
the total amount,
Right.
and then the tax that is being based on 3% to your government.
Right.
And then what I do is give it to Shia. Then the tax benefit.
Aha.
I get the tax benefit. I'm supposed to return it to you.
Okay.
Now to you is an upfront payment of taxes.
Right.
An upfront payment of taxes. So when you're sole proprietor, for example, your period of accounting is a calendar year. So after the 31st of December, you're supposed to pay your account.
Right.
Now all those withholdings that were taken for your amount,
Yes.
it has been given to you,
Yes.
will serve as the credit. So when you compare your account and there's any tax payable, you look at the tax paid because that says
That is paid.
if there's any balance, then you pay. If not, then CG would refund the excess.
Okay. But what about the situation where you can't get the tax certificate? I've had personal issue with some entities who simply won't give you any withholding tax certificate. They withhold and pay you less. Yet I don't have the certificate. You call them all your life. I mean, I have personal examples. I don't want to sound publicly from institutions, national institutions we know. And you go for your tax because you say you have withheld X or Y, and it's a problem. What accounts for that? In the past, I remember that yellow, sometimes yellow or pink or green. I remember that I have a lot from years ago. These days, your number is supposed to reflect it, something on your portal. I don't know. They say it's supposed to reflect on your portal. I've never seen it.
So that is why CG, is driving digital transformation in the system.
Okay.
What basically we're doing now, and we are piloting currently, all the invoices or let's say the certificate that was supposed to be put in, automatically once it's filed, like I told you, after the end of the last day of the month, the first of the subsequent month and to the 14th, if the person files, automatically your ledger is credited. So there's no need.
So if it is not credited, does it mean the person didn't file? And why am I carrying the burden of that? CG, I'm sure you get my question. There's something that happened maybe 2 years ago. Up to now, a national body. I called the CFO a number of times. That credit never came to me. And we just decided to let it go. And we ended up having to pay. How do we ensure that we gain from that which has been withheld from us? How long can that go on for? How long does it lose validity? I mean, if the company doesn't pay for 2 years, does it affect me? Okay. Yes. Okay. 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 All right. Permit me to ask some of these questions which are not really traditional, and I hope they are useful because I want to do the everyday living sort of questions. Again, another question I have is, we know that everybody is supposed to file personal income taxes as well, right? I'm told there's a very low compliance level in this country. Whatever it is, many people don't. But am I correct in saying that if you're a sole proprietor, your thing is the same as a business you registered, print one? Because I think that I get that a lot. A company tin number can be GHA whatever or CT something. You registered PIN whatever if it's a partnership or PN and all that. But if it's an individual who then has a sole proprietorship registered, I think now they use a Ghana card. They use a Ghana card for it. And that Ghana card is still what is used for the business you register as a sole proprietor, which means that your TIN number as a sole proprietor is the same as your personal number, which is also reflected by your card. Is that correct? How then do you do the filings? Are you doing, when you do the business filing, is that supposed to be separate from the personal income tax filing? Because maybe that will also involve other earnings which is not related to the business you've set up. I probably sell water, but then I MC the program and got paid some honorarium, and maybe you expect me to pay tax. That cannot come in my water business. Do I do two filings or do I consolidate it?
Income that I make is not this of AKS Enterprise makes. It's not distinct from me as Anthony Sapon, and therefore, for tax purposes, you use only one identification, which is connected to the individual. And therefore, if I sold water and I'm filing, it's the same tax. AKS Enterprise, who is now featuring as another enterprise, but it all comes to the same Anthony Sapon. So one identifier is what we need. So at the end of the year, when you are filing, you can aggregate all of these businesses on one form.
You can.
Yes.
Okay.
On one
Because
form,
on your
because
platform
you are
there seems to be a
using-
separate one.
You are using
On the
one-
portal there's a separate one for the personal income. Isn't there?
one. So sometimes it's misunderstanding.
Let me just give you an example. Let's use an architect.
Yes.
This architect sets up a company, it's just them. It's new. They don't have it. It was started just one. Do register as AKS architects. I get that the filing, the number is one and everything and all of that. Then this other person, architect, gets called to come and teach at a school of architecture for maybe 6 months and gets paid some money as a lecturer. In the financial year, is he filing what he earned from the teaching as part of AKS architects or separately? If he files it at one, is he not giving wrong information that we earned 30 CDs when, as a matter of fact, the firm earned 25 and the 5 is from teaching? How does that work?
So in the financial year, this architect will file only one form with one tax identifier. Assuming that is his Ghana card, then Ghana card is a primary identifier and his name. So in the form, a provision is made for business income. In that business income, he will fill the income he made from AKS architect. Then he will go to employment income. He will fill the income he made from teaching. Then you go to investment. Maybe he's put up a 2-story bedroom and he's earning rent income there. He will put that also there. So all of this will be aggregated under his name and one identification. Then one final tax will be determined for this architect for the whole year.
I get
I
it.
hope that clarifies the.
I hope that's also clear there.
Yes.
So that everybody gets that it's one. There will just be different components
Of it.
for different earnings outside of that bracket. That's it. And then we can do it. I get it. Let me come down here again and this time begin the round with you, Alex. It's also key for record keeping. I mean, it's a long time ago when my brother came to my law office, small, we're starting. I remember him giving me some template and telling me that, look, whenever you do this, just write it. When you do that, just record it. Let us know what you did, what went out, what did you use the money for. Some money came in, don't worry. You spent it on something, just record it. That way, you can always have a graph of activities and all of that. Bookkeeping or whatever, we can't afford a bookkeeper, all of that. What advice would you give to our young brothers and sisters here in this day and age as to how they can manage these records? Because sometimes maybe somebody may not pay, not so much because they don't want to, but they don't remember what happened 11 months ago, or how they came about the money, or how it was used. Truthfully, what's your advice as to the proper record keeping purposes on how to run their businesses?
Right. So in terms of SMEs, let me look at where we are going with modified taxation system. CG in his wisdom is realizing that taxpayers within the SME space are having a difficulty with records.
Yes.
So the modified taxation system is one avenue where taxpayers are not supposed to keep so much records. Basically what you do is, it's a simplified form. You go there, once you complete it, you tell us the activities you engaged in and then how much you're supposed to pay. But it's based on your turnover. So as long as your turnover is, let's say, below 20,000 for the defined period, that means you're going to pay taxes by installment. If I'm doing, let's say, between 20,000 and then let's say 500,000, then I'm also going to pay by a different means. But however, if I'm making more than 500,000, then we realize that you are playing the big boys game. Then section 27 of the RA will kick in. The basic records.
So what's that section 27? It kicks in what way?
No, it deals with maintaining documents.
Okay, so at that stage you begin
So
to
at that
demand.
stage, then of course,
Okay.
because your turnover is quite huge.
Okay.
So those basic records. So if I'm doing sales, just keep the basic sales record. And in this instance, CG is saying that as long as you are engaged in the taxable supply, then the only invoice you can issue is Commissioner General's invoice.
Okay.
If I'm also doing purchases, you also try as much as you can to retain all those purchase documents that you have.
Okay.
It will also be good for you to even retain those purchase documents, what call it, VAT invoices, because as it were, you may even use it to recover input tax as against the output tax that you charge.
Right.
Then all other basic business accounting records, that comes into play. So it means that
That.
those within the down the ladder are not supposed to keep, as it were, records.
Okay.
That is, if your turnover is quite minimal,
Right.
so that we don't worry you with what records do you have, but if we can see that your turnover has graduated
Yes.
from below 20 to between 20 and 500 and up, then it means you should be able to keep those basic records, which is what you would use to complete or populate your personal income tax return.
Okay.
Be it by way of business, employment, or investment.
Commissioner, I see you moving your microphone.
Yeah. Just want to add to it to say that record keeping is good for businesses and it's good for you as an entrepreneur and it's good for companies. So when you start your business, it's very important to keep records first and foremost for yourself. Okay. So you can have a simple book every day, how much you make, record it.
Okay.
Like you said you were taught. How much you are paying, you record it. If you can pay through your Momo account or bank account, it's even easier.
Okay.
Because that one, you have actual records being kept there. What we are saying is that sometimes the cost of hiring somebody to do it for you is so burdensome.
Yes, I can't
So
afford Professor Achulik. I mean,
when your turnover is up to 200 or below,
Right.
as GRA, when we come, we're not going to ask you, show us the expenses and how we're not going to show you. We only
All right.
ask you, show us the income you made.
Okay.
Then we'll apply a percentage of it.
Okay.
But although we are not asking you, first and foremost, you yourself, you need to know how much you are making,
Right.
how much expenses you are incurring, and the profit you are making. So it's
Right.
a good practice to have.
Okay.
Then number two, as your business grows, it's going to be a requirement anyway
Okay.
to have it. And you have to employ people to do it for you if you cannot do it. So if you start early, it's good practice, although we may not demand it. So sometimes you have accounting, taxation, business students in the university, hire some of them on part-time basis.
Okay.
As they are studying, they are earning a little income and they are helping. So this is one way to use the very students to help small businesses to do. And you can keep it manual, or you get one computer, put it in Excel, is good enough. But as he said, in terms of your income, if you are above the threshold, you use what we call the Commissioner General's invoice, which in this case we call the VAT invoice.
Okay.
You don't need to go and print your own invoice and incur costs.
Okay.
We give it to you,
Yeah.
and then you use it.
You're talking about the book, the VAT book.
Yes, the VAT book. If you use it, at least it keeps, already you are keeping records of your turnover.
Right.
And at each point in time, anybody can take it and tabulate for you. Of course, if you buy something to demand your invoice and receipt, and I said demand your VAT invoice. That way, it also allows you to be able to take part of the VAT cost you are incurring from your turnover, which is beneficial to business.
So that point for you, and based on experience, once upon a time I had a TV show, and where I interviewed people, and I owned the TV show. At the beginning, I had some sponsorship, and then the TV station would say, pay us X amount. So I calculate the X amount and all of that. The TV station will sell the airtime to you. Then it brings a VAT component. So the sponsorship I was getting really was not covering my costs at the start. Why? Because the TV station looks at it, and says, okay, the sponsor says, I'll give you 20 CDs. TV station says, my airtime, for example, is maybe 17 CDs. They calculate VAT and everything. We've come to 22 CDs. I have a 22 CD shortfall. The only reason for that, as Commissioner is saying, was because I was the final burden carrier of the VAT. So I couldn't do the input-output thing. But once I registered for VAT, and this is my personal story, experience. Once I registered, and I got that input-output advantage, when the TV station brought this to me, I also issued a VAT invoice to the sponsor, including that VAT component. So when that was struck out, I could now gain from that 17 CDs originally that I was getting. So it's really key. Sometimes people may think, I don't register because I don't want to pay tax. Trust me, the VAT thing rather helps you. You are not the final consumer. The VAT, it pushes all the way down the line to the final consumer. So in making the advertiser the final consumer, or the person, your customer, the final consumer of that thing, I think it helps. I mean, I don't know if it's a useful point to make.
And on top of that, you say for every tax you pay, the law puts 4% aside. So even if you don't make enough sales to deduct all, at the end of the year, you can come to GRA and say that I pay all this input tax,
Right.
but I couldn't make enough sales, and
Right.
we will refund it to you.
Oh wow! Please say that again.
So this is the refund, the refund mechanism.
Please explain this refund.
Yes.
Did you get it? The refund. Did you get it? No. Okay. Please explain
All right.
it.
So
We
in
want
our
our money
laws,
back.
we have what we call the refund mechanism. So principally, if you overpay taxes, the law says we should give it back to you. If you overpay taxes, the law says we should give it back to you.
Okay.
So every tax that each person pays in this country, 4% is kept in an account, which is managed by the Commissioner General. So at the end of the year, if, let's say, you bought some items, VAT, you intended to sell, and you eventually couldn't sell, which means that the VAT you paid is more than what you were expecting to get. You
Yes.
didn't.
Okay.
You can apply for a refund because you have paid taxes which you couldn't recover. So that
Interesting.
is one way. The other one is we ask people to pay taxes on installment basis, either
Okay.
monthly or quarterly.
Okay.
At the end of the year, if you file your returns, at the time that you were paying, for example, if you are married, there's what we call marriage relief.
Right.
We didn't deduct. If you have children in school going up to 3, is it 3 or 4? 3, the education that you are paying, we give you a certain relief.
Okay.
We didn't deduct when you were paying.
Okay.
If you are looking after an aged person in your family, and you show that indeed there's those dependents upon you, we give you a relief.
Okay.
All of this, when you are paying the course of the year, we don't deduct. So at the end of the year, when you file and you claim this relief, it will turn out to be that you have paid more taxes than you ought to be. Again, from this refund account, you're supposed to what? Pay back the money to you.
Okay.
So the taxation is not one way.
Okay.
Is when you have overpaid, the law makes provision for us to return some monies to you. So it's encouragement to file your returns, demonstrate that you have overpaid, and duly will refund the taxes to you.
Francis, I want to move on to the portal, the tax portal, and also leveraging technology. All the key points I have here. I think it's very critical. I mean, this generation is more tech savvy. And not many of them, I'm sure, would like to do this long queues, come to your offices are still open, but can be a bit frustrating. How do they leverage technology, and how do they find their way around your portal? And again, there's also the internet difficulty. If you file in the end, sometimes the page just, and then it comes back and says it was not recorded, it was not filed. What's the way out of all of this conundrum?
So I think that digitalization is the way to go now. So those days where we used to fill forms and then go to the GRE office and then pay with check or cash, we've moved out from that angle. Today, mobile money has over almost 28 million users. So if you want to pay taxes, GRE has a short code that you can use to pay the taxes. Now, I agree with you that sometimes getting to the latter part of the deadline, Ghanaians, we like the last minute thing. So everybody will jump onto the network and then the network will get a bit choked. But if you want to file your returns, which is mandatory anyway, even including employees, if you are an employee, you are supposed to file your return. And if you fail to file, the law says Commissioner General should take 500 cedis for the default, and then every day 10 cedis until you file. So you just go to the taxpayers portal, and the forms, I think that the GRA has done very well. They have simplified it. It's so simple, such that you log on, put in the various components. There are boxes. You just put in the numbers, and then the engine behind the software will automatically calculate the tax.
And let me advise them, if you're writing 2000, don't write 2000, write 200 .00 before the engine calculates. The engine works with the .00. I mean, at first I used to have that problem.
Yeah.
Until I called a friend and he said, "Oh, Charlie, just add the .0." Immediately you do that, it calculates everything for you. So you don't need a calculator.
Exactly.
Right.
So you do that and the system will do the calculations for you. But we always advise that you do it a bit early so that you don't go the last minute. And if you have any challenge, just walk to any nearest GRA office. And the taxpayer service will gladly walk you through, and then you can file your returns smoothly. I think that the digitalization has really helped. In fact, even midnight, before the deadline, you can sit in your comfort, do and pay everything online, and it makes compliance a bit easier compared to the previous days when it was 5 p.m. and if you don't walk fast, the GRA office will close.
It will close.
Now today you can do everything, and GRA has stopped accepting cash anyway, so you can pay at the bank or you can pay using the mobile money, and there's no e-levy.
There's no e-levy. Let me stay with you. And talk about tax incentives and reliefs that are available to SMEs. I mean, really, tax, as we all know, somebody went to Jesus Christ to ask whether they should go and pay the tax. It tells you that reluctance is not a new thing. And Jesus did not say yes or no. He took out a coin, we are told, and he said, "Whose image is on this?" And he said, "Caesar." He said, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God." It tells you something. The lesson around there is that people don't just get up and say, "I don't have to ask Jesus." I'm sure that person was actually hoping that you say, "We live for God, we are spirit beings, don't pay the tax." The person may have been disappointed. So maybe the willingness, etc., may not be great. The incentive for that person was that the master himself said, "Give unto Caesar, give unto God what is God." What is your word to them? How do you advise them to give to you?
So the first,
are there any incentives for them?
There are. The first point that I think we need to educate ourselves is that tax is the only way we can use to develop the country, because there's no other way. We have some countries where they are naturally endowed with things like fuel or crude oil, so they rely mostly on crude. But as far as Ghana is concerned, tax is going to be one of the key revenue sources. Now, within the tax law, there are design incentives that are either supposed to encourage some behavior towards some sectors of the economy. So government will decide that we need food sufficiency. So let us give incentive to people who go into agriculture. Now, agric is becoming more attractive, especially to the youth. So government has incentives for agric. So within agric, we have several sectors. You can go into tree crop. You can go and say, "I want to do coconut farming. I want to go into mango farming." And there are incentives for that. You can also, in fact, in 2017, government passed a law just to entice what we call the young entrepreneurs. Okay. And young entrepreneurs, we mean young people who are below 35 years. Government selected about 5 priority areas that you can go in there, and then for the first 5 years, you don't pay anything. You don't pay any tax. You can make millions of cedis and then you take your money away. After 5 years, depending on where you are located, there are also some incentives that your rate, instead of you maybe paying a higher rate like those of us maybe in other sectors, because you are a young person, your rate is lower. Okay. And then you enjoy that. So various incentives exist. You want to go into agric, you want to go into tree crop, you want to go into waste processing. The challenge that I mostly have is that at age 35, sometimes the capital, it becomes a big problem. So for example, I want to go into waste processing, collecting bola and process it into commercial use. Where am I going to get the money from? But if we can come together as, partners and do it, the law grants us that exemption, and, you can use it to, start up within the period where you don't pay tax. More or less, you are reinvesting the capital. Then maybe after 35 years, then you start paying tax.
Commissioner, I'll come. Okay.
Let me also add. So sometimes there are what we call the locational incentive, and
locational.
You can be purposeful about where you set up your office if it is convenient and proper. So if you are, the normal tax is 25. So within Accra, Tema Enclave, it is. If you move into any regional office, for example, to say that is your base, automatically you slash 25% off that 25.
It comes to zero.
No.
Oh, you mean
slash
25%
so
of
you
the
now pay
25?
75%
You take a
of
quarter
the
of it.
25.
Okay.
Yes. If you are outside a regional zone into a district or any other place outside the regional Accra enclave, you have 50% off.
Wow.
So if for example we are in this area, instead of bringing your office to Pokwase, you can decide to go to Insawam. Then you are in Eastern region.
Right.
So automatically, and Insawam is not a regional capital. So automatically, you've taken off percent of your 25 off. So these are also purposeful ways to locate your offices, and you get advantage of it. Number two, a lot of our young people are also looking for export. And then the export, the VAT on export is zero rated. So again, when you export, your VAT is zero rated. So this is a case where you use inputs in Ghana, you pay the VAT, but your export is what? Zero.
Let me get a clarification on that. So does that mean that if you also do work for a foreign entity, sometimes as a lawyer, you'll get a Canadian, say I'm considering investing, will happen when this and that occur. That person is not doing anything in Ghana. That person just wants to know from across the Atlantic. If you write that legal opinion, is that an export of service which is zero rated for VAT?
So that can be technical, but we have to define by what we call the location of consumption. So if it is goods, the goods will physically move.
Yes.
So the location of exemption is easy to prove.
Yes.
Is zero. If it is services, and you can demonstrate that the one who requested the service and their usage of it is outside the jurisdiction of Ghana, then it qualifies as an export of service. Then it's going to be zero. But sometimes the complexity is that somebody will ask for it outside, but they are using it for a business which is situated in Ghana.
Yes.
So you then see that although they are paying from outside, the consumption is in Ghana.
I get you.
Then you don't qualify for that status.
I get you. I have a question for, but let me.
But the point I was making was that for businesses that also export,
yes,
the export income taxes are very low.
Right.
So if you are able to go through a free zone registration, your first 10 years is you don't pay a tax. Your tax, the 25% is zero for you.
Okay.
Thereafter, the law gives a percentage, 8% or sometimes 15%. But even
for
if you
export,
even if you don't register at all, the tax you pay is 8%. Even if you don't go formally to register with free zone, you don't have a certificate which is giving you the 10 years, then the tax you are paying is also 8% as against the 25. So again, for the young entrepreneurs, don't just run away from registering. If you are doing things that you're exporting, you already have an incentive that gives you a lower tax to pay. So you must as well register and correctly take advantage of that. Yes.
And just to add that the biggest incentive we have is when you are located in the north.
In where?
The north.
The north.
The northern region. I think it's intended that we want to drive most businesses to those areas. So it's a very, lucrative investment destination as far as tax is concerned.
Alex, there's also the issue about tax audits. I mean, what should people prepare? How should companies or SMEs generally prepare for that? Because it can be quite scary for people. Hey, challenge people, they come. People are worried, work this, taking this, hiding this, or whatever. Are there key considerations for SMEs when it comes to preparing for these tax audits that you'd advise them to have?
Right, thanks. So basically, we're in a self-assessment regime, which means GRA expects you to sit in the comfort of your zone or home and then compute the tax that is payable and file your return with us. So in so doing, like Commissioner General said, you ought to make sure that you maintain the minimal records that you are supposed to. So it is only in my interest, if I'm an SME, to make sure that if I'm selling, do I have a small book where I record all these sales. If I purchased, do I have another book, or do I receive invoices where maybe I'll keep those invoices? Or if I employ 1 or 2 people, for that matter, I will not be around. How would I also check whether these people are making sure the business is running in my absence? So basically, it calls for record keeping. But in this stead, it's one-sided, because it's you, the person or the owner of the business, who is doing all this recording of the sales and then all these purchases. When you file with GRE, at our end, we don't have an overview of what you have done, but we receive all that you filed with us once you file on the portal. However, over a period of time, under Section 36, Commissioner General has a way of selecting from the information that we've received. So CG will look at, oh, okay, what is the history of returns that have come to me? Then he will start analyzing them. Okay, what is the history of payments that have come to me? He starts analyzing them. But in so doing, he will use a risk profiling. And you realize that maybe Niade has filed his return and he's been punctual for every month. Maybe Kojo is also filing. He's doing like a stop filer. He files January, he doesn't file in February, he files in March. Then there's another person who doesn't file at all. So in the system, we have what we call the history of your filing. We have your history of payments. But when we do the risk profiling, we'll first go to the person who has not filed at all, but is registered with us. Then maybe if we should, let's say, scale them, the next person is the person who was doing the stop filing. He filed January, didn't file in February, but he filed in March. And then you filed throughout. So you realize that we don't even worry yourself at all. So it can serve as a parameter to select a taxpayer to then audit. So basically, when we come to you, what we do is we are going to first of all write to you an introductory letter, which has 2 additional letters. One letter to tell you of your rights as a taxpayer, another one to tell you how to object if you disagree with the audits that you want to conduct, and the last one, the records that you have that you'd give to us, which we would use to audit you. So the auditing is not done by way of we sitting in the office and then no. Basically, we'll write to you, inform you, and there are times taxpayers or our clients will tell us that, look, at this time I'm too busy. And then we'll tell them, okay, tell us when you think it's appropriate for you to allow us to come. And then they'll give us the time to come. So basically, when we come to you, it's the records that you kept, the small book that you have. But you know, once you register your business with the Office of Registrar of Companies, then you're also mandated there to keep some minimal records. Those records form as a basis for our tax audits. And then when we complete the audit, we'll give you a draft and then you respond to the issues. If you're okay with the issues, then you go ahead with whatever findings that we gave to you. If you're not, then the initial letter that we gave to you, it tells you how to object, or if there are rights that maybe GRA also didn't adhere to, you can invoke those statements and then the Commissioner General will seek address. So for example, you can come back to GRA when we give you the draft report. How did you calculate these taxes?
Okay.
Where did you get these records? Is it from my books? So basically they will go back again. Can you please give us the first document you give us? The notice to produce records, where you've listed or you itemized all the records you gave to us. Oh, for your sales, we picked it from this book. Then you realize that the taxpayer or the entrepreneur will say, oh, no, this wasn't meant for sales. This was meant for some. So once we do the judging, we are able then to come to a conclusion. And then at the end of the day, our tax audit is completed. But sometimes too, the issues escalate to the courts.
Yeah, it's gone even to the Supreme Court in terms of, whether you can just
so
say.
let me add on to that, and it's also part of job creation. So the Institute of Chartered Institute of Taxation is training a lot of young tax practitioners. The business schools are training a lot of young people in business administration and taxation. Sometimes you, the business owner, may not necessarily even understand the tax laws.
Right.
When you are dealing with the tax officials, it's difficult to even make your point. So it's a good practice sometimes to have an advocate, a young lawyer who understands taxation, or a young tax practitioner who has graduated to help you. Agree a minimum amount to pay, so they help you, support you to explain the process, and be able to speak on your behalf with the tax officials, and that can be very, very helpful. But we are also working on what we call the Independent Tax Appeals Board. So, you know, the process of going through the law courts is very tedious, and a lot of people will not even want to go and hire a lawyer to go and defend their tax cases in court. And sometimes, even when they do, it goes all the way to Supreme Court. That's a long process. So we have what is in our law, the Independent Tax Appeal Board, which the law has created to say this is a friendly environment, that if you have a tax issue that you disagree with GRA, go to this board, they will call GRA, they will call you, and without going through the formality like a court process, sit down and listen to the two cases and adjudicate. That law has been passed, the body has been established. We're working through their regulations. We believe that when Parliament returns in November before the end of the year, the regulations will be passed. So going forward, that's an easy environment for both GRA and the taxpayer, because we don't want to be going too much at court. Sometimes by the time you finish, one party is bruised, and although you are friends and we call them customers, one is not happy.
Right.
We don't want that process. But as for the appeals board, we all go there. They give us a friendly treatment, and once we all accept, if GRA is at fault, GRA will just recall its demands. If the taxpayer has to pay, then they can also pay. Let me also say that sometimes the demands of cash flow can be very difficult on businesses.
Right.
So the law also allows us that when you legitimately accept that you have an obligation, you can come to GRA and say, look, I really want to pay my money, but the truth is I don't have the money. So spread this over 6 months or 12 months for us. So the law empowers GRA to also do that arrangement.
Okay.
So again, these are some of the means that businesses can speak to us, we can agree, and then you pay your taxes over time instead of leaving it and not paying. Because when you don't pay, it's like government is funding you, and it attracts a huge interest. And 1 year interest alone could be 50% of what you're supposed to pay.
Sure.
So they should take advantage of that. Yeah.
There are so many more questions even from me, and I've not invited anybody from here, but our time is fast spent. I'm surprised we have practically done 1 hour already and a little bit more. Is there any question at least I should take?
Maybe before you go there, if I
Yeah.
can clarify the
Yes,
VAT.
clarify. I was going to close with it.
Right.
But yeah, I was going to close as your final word with it. So I don't know if we have time, but I mean, it would be good to just take 1 or 2, a maximum of 3 questions. Okay, yes. Please introduce yourself and make it a question to the point.
Okay. I'm Niama Ebenezer with Heritage University. My question is from the first point you made about a lady calling you from the GRA. What I realized from there is about customer service issues. So I want to find out from the commissioner what you are doing about customer service, how your staff interact with. There is a tag that with the GRA, you are not friendly. How do you clarify that? The second one is about the relationship between GRA and the Registrar General. The same, I'm picking this question from what Robert said, that he has already, that business is not in existence. Registrar General is aware, but it seems GRA is not aware. My last one is an appeal, that this is the maiden Boateng Business Conference. It's an appeal I'm making. If GRA and other organizations here can take this and be sponsoring us every year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we'll take some 2 more. Let's go to the corner. The gentleman with his hands up over there.
Thank you very much. My name is Kwame Chumisi-Ankra. I'm with Heritage. My question is, there was a mention of the tax portal. Is it an app or a website, and how do people
The tax
access?
portal.
Yes.
Okay.
And then is there also period to file taxes in Ghana like we have in the US and other advanced
Is there a
countries.
period for filing taxes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. I think we should bunch it together. It will help. Then we can take many and close it all. Let's get the lady, please. We have had too many male voices here. Can we have the lady in green?
Okay, thank you. My name is Rosalyn, and then my question is, citizens and businesses work hard to earn their income, and then a portion of that goes to taxes. And while we understand that these funds support national development, how do individuals and companies benefit from the taxes they pay to the government? Because considering these taxes are derived from their hand-earned income and profit, how do
citizens benefit?
Yes.
That's a fantastic question. I think that those will be the questions. But Commissioner, they look like a lot of them are directed at you, your customer service, what kind of benefits do people get, and things like that. And the filing times and periods and all of that. And then what's the GRA portal? He's asking. Is it an app? What is it?
Thank you very much. So I will start and my colleagues can add up to it. So the first question that came in terms of the customer experience. So that is people and culture issues. And as GRA, we have told ourselves that we want to be human-centered. So if you are going to be human-centered, then we have to bring things that makes our engagement with the public and the taxpayer that feels an experience that they always will welcome to. So you will notice that we've started calling taxpayers our tax customers. That will mean that it puts an obligation on us to treat them with respect, to treat them with dignity, and to treat them as partners in development. So at the moment, we have established what we call customer experience department in GRA. It's a young department, but we've started by an annual engagement. So the last 2 weeks or so, we had a conference that we engaged the public in terms of what does the public expect us in terms of the experience they want to have and what we should be giving to them. It's something that we are going to scale up to make sure that across all our offices and across all our staff, they learn the habit of customer experience engagement with taxpayers. So this is work in progress. We do acknowledge there are challenges in that area, but we are working so hard that at some point in time, we can say that GRA has become a more customer-friendly, a more human-centered institution in that respect. But of course, there are occasions sometimes, because it's about taxes, and sometimes people, if I use the word, have a challenge or resist to pay tax. The law allows us to employ some other ways of collecting the tax, and that obviously, those instances are not comfortable. But those are those are rare situations that we should employ those tools of the law, but not the norm. I think there's
a follow-up about your relationship or synergy with the Office of the Registrar of Companies.
Registrar of Companies. So you will notice that Registrar of Companies, so there are now two government agencies in what used to be Registrar General's Department.
Yes.
So we now have the Registrar General's Department, whose mandate is to register for businesses, sole proprietors, and partnership, and administer other things. Then we have the Office of Registrar of Companies, so ORC. They used to be together, but we have these two institutions separated by law recently. Yes. So GRA, our relationship with them is very important because they are the first point of registration of businesses. And at that point, what we've done with the two institutions is that we generate a TIN for the person registering a business if they don't have. So if you are an individual, your Ghana card is your TIN. Then from that point of view, we know you. If you're a corporate, you are supposed to have a corporate TIN before you register the business. So again, we have a relationship with ORC where they are able to process and generate the TIN.
But what about the information? How come something happens there, GRA may not know, and things like that?
So the first phase is this relationship. The second phase, we are moving into a full integration. Okay. So as I explained to you, early next year, a new GRA system will come into force. In fact, that is going to integrate not only with Registrar of Companies or ORC, but some of the other major institutions like SNIT, all those where we have data. So that way, as soon as you register a business, you're already in the GRA system, and we know you, and then we can also engage you. So the registration that we talk about going forward from next year is going to be seamless. What you file at Register of Companies on ORC will already be populated into the GRA system. So when you come to you, it's about confirming, have you got everything correct? Once you take yes, then we have the information. That way, we will not wait to come and find you physically. We use the data we have, and that's part of our data and insight strategy, again, we spoke about.
Okay, and as we round up, can we get an answer for the gentleman? GRA portal, GRA portal, GRA portal, what is it?
So the portal is both an app and also a web-based system. So you can type in taxpayers portal. It will take you there, and then you will see the profile where you are supposed to put your tax identification number. In this case, if you're an individual, your Ghana card. You put it in, and then you can log on, and then you transact. If you are the first time logging on, it will ask you to reset. Remember when you were doing your Ghana card, you used some phone number. So if you are resetting, a code will be sent to that phone number. If it is confirmed, then you can log on. Otherwise, you can go to, you can call the GRA numbers, which Alex will be putting up. They can assist you. But I think I agree with the first questioner. Yes, GRA is in transition. We're waiting for a time where GRA customer service will be like the telcos or the ECGs, where you call and then somebody can easily pick. I agree, Commissioner General is less than a year in office, but some improvement is ongoing. And then there was also a question about the timeline for filing. In Ghana, the law requires that 4 months after the year end, which means that 30th of April the following year, you are supposed to file. Whether you are a business or individual, you're supposed to file your returns. Remember, if you fail to file or submit the returns, which is about your taxes and the income and everything that you have earned online, the law imposes a penalty, 500 cedis, first day. So 1st April, you're going to pay 500 cedis, and then every day that the default continues, you are paying 10 cedis. There are some embassies in Ghana where if you are applying for their visa, they will ask you to produce tax clearance certificates. If you have not filed before, you cannot get that tax clearance certificate. I know of some colleagues where they were traveling. Some were even applying for scholarship for their awards. And then the school were asking for tax clearance, and then they were stranded. You have to go online, pay the penalties before the system will allow. So you can go online, and then you can get the services. I think Alex has some.
And then let's not forget our lady. She's people always hard-earned money. They should pay tax. What do they really get out of it? Maybe she cannot see. I don't know whether Commissioner wants to take that or Alex wants to take that. We want Commissioner to take it. Commissioner, really. She says, what's the benefit to her?
Yes. Thank you very much. So I always tell people that they ask me, what work do you do? You are collecting. I say, no, I'm doing national development work. So basically, the nation has to develop, and the nation develops with building infrastructure, building roads, building schools, building hospitals, and creating the environment for individuals and businesses to thrive. And that is what, as individuals and as a group of businesses, we have to come together, pay our taxes, and then the government will use those taxes to pay. So as I was driving here, I saw two different streams of road infrastructure. The one which is the asphalt dual carriage, and the ones I branch off, then I was on the normal rough road, as we normally call it.
Yeah.
So you can see the portion of the asphalt all the way you branch off is from the taxes that you have paid, which is building that road. But we hope that one day the money will be sufficient and all the road to the university will be tied. That will be an example of you benefiting from that. So you talked about today you are in the university, or you want to call your mother or your sister in the village, your mobile telephony is working, right? So apart from the operators, you have the government NCA that regulates them and makes sure that they are doing that. That has to be funded. Come out with the policy. So again, you're able to call because the infrastructure is being built and somebody is regulating that. So all of these are part of what we use our taxes for national development.
So
I think
just to add,
yes.
so the payment to the police, the people teachers who teach our sisters, and all of these things are coming from the small VAT corporate tax that you pay. But I think one thing that we are also missing, and we've made a recommendation to government, is that people want to see what the taxes are being used for. So why don't we brand the project that we are doing and say, this is your tax at work. So Pokwase is a one road. If it is really from government tax revenue, let us tell the people so that when I'm driving, passing by, I know that the COVID-19, or maybe the PAY that I have paid went into this road, and therefore at least I can be satisfied. As we speak now, everything goes into the bowl, and how it is allocated, we don't know. So I agree with my sister's question.
Alex, I'll take a final word from you, and then I'll close with Commissioner.
Right. So I think the last answer goes to satisfy the question you're asking. You know, levies are short-lived. So
Right.
like the national health you said, all those payments that goes there is used to fund the national health insurance. And again, they get fund educational projects. But for the customer experience question that you gave to us, we also have numbers that you can give feedback to GRA on any experience that you have or any questions that you want to ask. Maybe there are many people here who wanted to ask questions, they were not able to. So if you don't mind, I want to share our toll-free number and the other numbers so that even if you live here, you can still call us. If there's any experience you didn't enjoy, please give us the feedback and we'll still work on it. So if you don't mind, I can go with the number.
Yes, please.
So 0800 900 110. The toll-free number again, 0800 900 110. Or give other contacts, 0209 267 047. Again, 020 9267 047. And we also have WhatsApp lines. You can send us a message and we'll respond quickly.
Interesting.
The WhatsApp lines are as follows: 0200 631 664. The WhatsApp again, 020 063 1664, and then 055 299 0000. The last number again, 055 299 0000. Or if you want to write, you can go to customerexperience@gra.gov.gh. We want to hear from you. We want to talk taxes. We want to build this nation, and then we'll be able to mobilize more revenue for the state. Thank
So
you.
we take a final comment from Commissioner, what you really wanted to throw some light on, which you say the good news. And while at it, final example, I have a personal friend, a medical doctor. He used to run a restaurant somewhere in the city. He was there for years. The other day I asked him what was happening. He says, I've converted it into residences, some sort of apartments. What's happening? He says, Robert, the GRA comes, we show them a document. They say this cannot be what we earn from an eatery. So the GRA has its own idea of what I earn. I tell them we got 100,000 over this period. They say no. You sell banku, you sell tilapia, you send water, you sell what? You got 300,000. And this is a medical doctor. He's about 70 years old. It's just something that's to supplement his income. And he says, it's now a residential place. I have contracts covering it. People pay their rent. When they come, I show it to them. They look at the percentage. They take that. They go away. People in the area are complaining because it was really good food. But I can't do it because the GRA insists that I earn what I don't earn. That image problem right there for you. People feel like they set up business and GRA is hounding them. How does that encourage anybody to do business? We are talking about Boateng Business Conference. If I think the GRA is going to say, I got 10,000 when I actually got 5, what's the point? Please answer that and then close up.
And to be transparent. So sometimes we have instances where there's no sufficient, because as he mentioned, we sometimes risk profile where businesses are and we expect that their businesses will generate something. If it turns out it's not the case, That's why we have the public lines. The friend can call or write to the Commissioner General that not stop that business. We want the business to survive. We want the business to survive or transform into another business and work with. And indicate what the person do is that we'll set up a different team to come and look at the situation and provide an advice and ensure that the issue is settled. So sometimes taxpayers, when they deal with our officers, believe that that is the end point. It's not the end point. There's always the opportunity to write to the Commissioner General to explain their point. And once that is done, we'll take a careful look at it and make sure that we deal with the matter. Because at the end of the day, taxes will be paid by individuals and businesses. And that's why we say, GRA, we are partners with businesses in national development. If the businesses are not surviving and growing, ultimately there will be no taxes to collect, and there will be no money to fund national development. So our ultimate aim is to work with businesses to grow and increase employment and income, then ultimately we get the taxes. Back to the issue on the VAT as your matter, which he calls tax on tax. So let me take the opportunity to explain. So in Ghana, we have the nominal VAT at 15%. Then, in addition to the 15%, we have the 2.5% GET fund to support education. And I said 2.5%. Then we have another 2.5% to support national health insurance. And then we have the COVID levy, which is 1%. So bringing the nominal rate to 19%.
Correct.
What we have currently done is what we call the decoupling. So the decoupling means that after you've calculated the VAT, then the levies are applied on the VAT. So that's the point that you made, so that you are being made to pay a tax on tax.
Yes.
So that concept is called decoupling.
It's called what?
Decoupling.
Oh, decoupling.
So we are separating the tax from the levies and now
Right.
applying the levies
Yes.
on the tax. So when you do that, the effective rate becomes 21.9%.
Okay.
Instead of the nominal VAT 15 or the nominal VAT plus levies of 19.
Yes.
What this government has indicated is that for every 100 Ghana cedi you have, basically 25% goes to taxes,
Yes.
which is too high for consumers and it stifles consumption. So you see that in 2025, the government removed some taxes. In the media budget, the minister signals that the COVID levy will go.
Okay.
So in 2026 budget, the minister is going to affirm it, the 1% is going to go. Secondly, this decoupling is also going to go.
It should go.
So when that happens, the rate will drop to 20%.
Yes.
Which is your nominal 15 plus your 2.5, making the 20.
Simple.
So let's patiently pay and patiently also wait that in November when the minister goes to parliament, this proposal will be made and hopefully from 2026, your problem will be solved.
Thank you very much. And please put your hands together for them. And I definitely must apologize to you. We went a bit beyond the allotted time, and please forgive us. But I think it was very useful to all of us. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. Before I let them go, though, I'm going to invite Professor Williams Atuelik. He's Vice President of Heritage Christian University, to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Robert. Before I do what I wanted to do, because of the time, instead of taking a break out, we will have them bring the refreshments down so that the next session will continue, so we don't stretch too much with time. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all the panelists, starting with my senior, Mr. Anthony Kwesi-Sapor. We are so grateful that you made time, to come. And let me thank you on behalf of management of the university. He was the senior partner for KPMG before he went as GRA, and he had a special heart for this university. Every year, he gave us a huge slot of internship for our accounting students, and we want to appreciate you for that. And the request that my brother Niyama made, we want to hope that as we go forward, the Boateng Business Conference will continue to get your attention and your kind sponsorship. So thank you very much. And I want to also thank my very good friends, Francis Timor and then Alexander Harvey, for responding to this call and coming and providing very insightful thoughts on the issue of taxation. And my own brother, Niade, we are not done with you yet. You will still continue to moderate the rest of it. But he is an excellent, one of my pride is that he was my classmate. And so I pride myself with that. So thank you so much. But this is the Boateng Business Conference in honor of the illustrious business icon, Dr. Douglas Boateng. And we are very privileged to have him with us here. And for those of you who do not know, he exemplifies the values that this university stands for, using business as a basis for serving humanity, doing business with conviction, with innovation, and responding to good, responsible practices. And using his businesses as a platform in more than 8 African countries to do God's work. And so, Dr. Douglas Boateng, we are so grateful for the example that you have set. Many of the young entrepreneurs here will follow after your example. And so thank you very much. We will, move down. And then as for you, you will continue with the rest of the program. So we'll not take a break. If you are tired, you can just stretch back and forth. But the people who are serving the refreshments, they will bring it down so that we save 1 hour and finish on time. Thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Yes, we should. Please, let's take a picture of us.